The most bizarre battles you've never heard of. A glimpse into the unthinkable. History is often remembered for its grand battles. Thermopylae, Waterloo, Stalingrad. These clashes are etched in our collective memory as turning points, moments where humanity's fate hung by a thread. But what about the battles that defy logic? The ones so absurd, so bizarre, they seem plucked from the pages of satire or fantasy. Imagine soldiers fighting over a literal mountain of cheese, armies clashing because of a misunderstanding about chickens, or warriors battling to control an island populated solely by rabbits. Yes, these stories exist, not in fiction, but in real history. These forgotten skirmishes remind us that war isn't always fought over noble causes or strategic objectives. Sometimes, it's driven by petty squabbles, superstitions, or sheer absurdity. And yet, these peculiar conflicts hold immense value. They teach us about human nature, culture, and the unpredictable ways we navigate conflict. By exploring them, we uncover hidden truths about ourselves and the societies we've built. So buckle up. This journey will take you through 5 of the most bizarre battles in history. Stories so strange you'll question their authenticity, yet so well documented they demand your attention. Along the way, you'll discover how seemingly trivial disputes can escalate into all-out warfare, and why understanding these oddities matters more than ever in today's world. Let's dive in and prepare to have your mind blown. Why these stories matter. Before we delve into the tales themselves, let's address why these bizarre battles deserve your time. At first glance, they might appear frivolous or irrelevant compared to the big wars taught in classrooms. However, beneath their surface-level weirdness lies profound insight into human behavior, decision-making, and even geopolitics. 1. Human nature on display. Warfare at its core reflects humanity's darker impulses, greed, pride, fear, and ambition. When stripped of high-minded ideals like honor or justice, these bizarre battles expose raw emotions and motivations. They show us how easily people can be swayed by ego, tradition, or misinformation. For instance, when villagers went to war over livestock or land disputes, they weren't thinking rationally. They were acting out of emotion, much like individuals do in modern conflicts. 2. Cultural context. Every battle tells a story about the society that waged it. Whether it's medieval Europe's obsession with chivalry or colonial power's scramble for resources, these skirmishes reveal cultural values and priorities. Take, for example, the Great Emu War, a failed attempt by Australian farmers to cull emus using military tactics. While laughable now, this episode highlights colonial attitudes toward nature and indigenous ecosystems. Understanding such quirks helps us appreciate different worldviews and avoid repeating past mistakes. 3. Lessons in leadership. Leadership plays a crucial role in any conflict, and these strange battles offer cautionary tales about poor decision-making. From generals launching ill-conceived campaigns to politicians ignoring expert advice, these stories underscore the importance of critical thinking and humility. After all, if leaders had paused to consider the consequences, or consulted those with local knowledge, many of these absurd wars could have been avoided altogether. 4. Humor as a tool for learning. Lastly, humor makes history accessible. Engaging with these quirky narratives doesn't just entertain, it encourages curiosity. Once hooked by the bizarre, readers are more likely to explore deeper historical contexts. Think of these stories as gateway drugs to broader learning. Who wouldn't want to know more after hearing about a war sparked by stolen pigs? Now that we understand why these battles matter, let's explore 5 examples guaranteed to leave you astonished. The Pig War, 1859, when a hog sparked international tension. In the mid-19th century, tensions simmered between Britain and the United States over ownership of the San Juan Islands, located off the Pacific Northwest coast. Both nations claimed sovereignty based on vague treaty language, leading to overlapping settlements. Things came to a head one fateful day in June 1859, thanks to an unlikely culprit, a pig. The incident began innocuously enough. An American farmer named Lyman Cutlar discovered a large black boar rooting around his potato patch. Frustrated by the damage, Cutlar confronted the animal's owner, Charles Griffin, a British employee of the Hudson's Bay Company. Griffin refused to compensate Cutlar for the loss, insisting that the pig was free to roam wherever it pleased. Enraged, Cutlar shot the pig dead. Griffin demanded $100 in restitution, equivalent to several $1,000s today. Cutlar refused, arguing that Griffin's lax management had caused the problem in the first place. What followed was a diplomatic standoff involving hundreds of troops, naval vessels, and months of negotiations. Remarkably, despite the escalation, no shots were fired beyond the initial pig-killing bullet. Cooler heads eventually prevailed, and the dispute was resolved peacefully through arbitration. While humorous in hindsight, the pig war illustrates how minor grievances can spiral into international crises. It also demonstrates the power of restraint and diplomacy in averting disaster. Today, the San Juan Islands remain a symbol of cooperation, hosting memorials to both sides involved in this peculiar conflict. The War of the Stray Dog, 1925 canine diplomacy gone wrong. Few would expect a dog to trigger a military confrontation, yet that's exactly what happened along the Finnish-Soviet border in 1925. Known as the War of the Stray Dog, this brief clash stemmed from long-standing territorial disputes exacerbated by mistrust between Finland and the newly formed Soviet Union. It started when a Finnish soldier noticed a stray dog wandering near the border. Concerned it might carry sensitive documents or supplies from the Soviet side, he opened fire. Unfortunately, his shots crossed into Soviet territory, prompting retaliation. Within hours, both sides mobilized forces, exchanging artillery fire and threatening full-scale war. Thankfully, cooler heads intervened before casualties occurred. Diplomatic channels reopened, and the situation de-escalated. While the stray dog itself disappeared from the narrative, the incident highlighted the fragility of post-revolutionary relations in Eastern Europe. More importantly, it serves as a reminder of how quickly misunderstandings can escalate into violence, even over something as harmless as a wandering canine. The Battle of Karansebes, 1788, a self-inflicted disaster. Sometimes, the greatest enemy is yourself. Such was the case during the Battle of Karansebes, a chaotic episode in the Austro-Turkish War. Legend has it that Austrian forces managed to defeat themselves without any Turkish involvement whatsoever. Here's how it unfolded. Late one night, scouts patrolling the outskirts of camp encountered shadowy figures moving through the woods. Assuming they were Turkish soldiers, the scouts panicked and opened fire. Hearing the commotion, other units mistook the gunfire as an attack and began firing blindly into the darkness. Chaos ensued as rumors spread of an impending Ottoman assault. Amid the confusion, officers ordered cavalry charges, which only added to the pandemonium. Soldiers fled in terror, trampling comrades underfoot. By dawn, thousands lay dead or wounded, all inflicted by friendly fire. To add insult to injury, the actual Turkish army arrived days later, finding the battlefield already littered with Austrian casualties. Though debated by historians, the tale of Karansebes remains a timeless lesson in panic, miscommunication, and the dangers of hysteria in wartime. It proves that even trained professionals aren't immune to self-destruction when fear takes hold. The Great Emu War, 1932 feathers, flying in Western Australia. Australia is no stranger to unique wildlife, but few creatures have caused as much trouble as the emu. In 1932, farmers in Western Australia declared war on these flightless birds, accusing them of destroying crops and livelihoods. Desperate for relief, they appealed to the government for help. Enter the military. Armed with Lewis machine guns and plenty of ammunition, soldiers set out to eradicate the emu population. But the birds proved surprisingly elusive. Their speed, agility, and ability to scatter made them nearly impossible targets. Despite deploying multiple strategies, including ambushes and coordinated assaults, the military achieved little success. In fact, reports suggest that fewer than 1,000 emus were killed, while many more evaded capture entirely. Dubbed the Great Emu War, this farcical campaign ended in failure, with the government withdrawing support after just a few weeks. Not only did the operation highlight the challenges of combating nature, but it also became a symbol of hubris and miscalculation. Decades later, Australians still joke about the emu's decisive victory over the armed forces. The War of Jenkins' Ear, 1739 to 1748 revenge, served cold. Finally, we arrive at perhaps the most infamous entry on this list, the War of Jenkins' Ear. Named after Captain Robert Jenkins, whose severed ear became a rallying cry for British retaliation against Spain, This conflict epitomizes the absurdity of 18th century colonial rivalries. Jenkins claimed that Spanish coast guards had boarded his ship, accused him of smuggling, and cut off his ear as punishment. 7 years later, he presented the preserved appendage to Parliament, sparking outrage and calls for vengeance. Thus began a prolonged series of naval engagements and land battles across the Caribbean and Georgia. While Jenkins' ear served as a pretext, underlying economic tensions drove the conflict. Ultimately, the war merged with the larger War of the Austrian Succession, achieving little beyond further entrenching animosity between European powers. Still, the image of a pickled ear inspiring years of bloodshed remains one of history's oddest footnotes. Dive deeper into history's oddities. By now, you've glimpsed the wild, wacky, and downright unbelievable side of history. These bizarre battles may seem amusing or absurd, but they carry important lessons about human behavior, leadership, and the complexities of conflict. They challenge us to think critically about why wars happen and whether they're always justified. If these stories piqued your interest, there's so much more to explore. From ancient myths to modern-day curiosities, history brims with untold tales waiting to be uncovered. So grab a book, watch a documentary, or visit a museum. Every step you take toward learning enriches not only your perspective, but also your ability to contribute meaningfully to discussions about peace, justice, and progress. Remember, history isn't just about dates and battles, it's about people. And sometimes, those people behave in ways that leave us scratching our heads, or laughing until we cry. Keep digging, keep questioning, and above all, keep marveling at the endless complexity of human experience. Your journey starts here. Where will it take you next?